Now in this video we're going to look at table 4.7 where we have kind of a pivot table. Okay, like in the previous video we looked at how binning the value of RM by using the floor function. So here we're going to look at a slightly different way of doing the same thing, which is more flexible, and you can specify any class interval you want. Okay, if you use floor, then it has to be like in increments of 1, right? It has to be between 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. What if you want to classify from 1 to 5 and 5 to 10 and so on? So if you want to bin at different breakpoints, then we need to be able to do that in a different way, and that's what we're going to do now. Okay, and for that we're going to use the dot bin code, okay, function. We have Boston housing, and we're going to create a new column and put the bins there instead of replacing the values of RM. We will create a new column called RBin. Okay, and then we use bin code. Okay, and what do you want to bin? So you want to bin Boston housing RM. So that's the variable that we want to bin. And then the second parameter that you have to specify is the breakpoints. So you need to give the breakpoints within C, and you specify, if you want breakpoints at 5, 10, 15, so you put that here. But we want to use bin points of width 1, okay? And since we don't know what the minimum value for RM is, what the maximum value, so we just give 1 to 9. And that will automatically use only the numbers that are needed. And then we need to specify whether the right side is inclusive or not. Okay, so 1 and 2, is 2 included or not, right? So we say right is false. Okay, now you run that. So now if you look at the housing.df, you see here a new column is added, and it's the value of RM binned into this. Okay, so let's look at let's do a table here just to see what how the frequencies are. Okay, Boston, and then rm dot bin. So you see, even though we gave 1 through 9 as the breakpoints, it's using only breakpoints 3, 4, 3 through 8 because that's all it needed. It didn't need the other values. So this is up to 3. Okay, sorry. This is 3 to 4, not including 4, 4 to 5, not including 5, 5 to 6, and so on. Okay, now we're going to use the cast function to prepare the pivot table. So we're going to take, so Boston housing DF, so we're going to take all the rows, and the columns we want are RM bin, and then we want Chaz, and then we want medv. So these are the 3 columns we are going to select. I missed a quotation mark right there, and I have 2 quotation marks here. So let's, all right. So now we'll pipe it through to cast. Okay. Now again, you can look up help page for cast. So what we need to do is to provide what should be in rows and what should be in the columns for the pivot table. And we want RM bin as rows, and then we use tilde and then specify what should be columns. So that's Chaz. All right. And now value. Okay, so what do we want value to be? So we want value to come from medv, and then we have to provide a function. What do we want those values to be aggregated as? So we say mean. Okay. Close parenthesis. Okay. So now you see that is the pivot table, except that it doesn't have the column grand mean and row grand mean. So for that you have to include in the cast, we have to include margins. Okay. Now if you say margins equal to true, then both the row margin and column margin grand total or grand means will be included. So you have the all and all. So if you do margins equal to true, but if you want only either the column or the row, then instead of true you have to give the what list that you want. So you want for each row, then you have to say grand row. Okay, then if you do that, then you get, okay, all these rows are the average of all the rows are given. So if you say column, okay, average of all the columns, okay, grand col is what the, okay, so then you'll have that. If you want both, you can either say true or you can say grand row. So then you'll get both.